On November 8th, 2017, Actionable Insights introduced the Umpire's Manual to the world, the property insurance industry's first invoicing standard. Umpire's Manual, blazing a new trail of industry standardization. A tool that reshaped how professionals would estimate forever. And today, we're going to do it again. Introducing the all-new Actionable Xactimate Profile. Built to take on the toughest losses you can find. Built to give you the most seamless estimating experience. Built to truly reconnect you with what it means to be a claims professional. Built to be the future of estimating. The Actionable Xactimate Profile has gone through thousands of hours of rigorous testing with companies large and small all across North America. And to be able to go through that kind of testing, you need to be able to handle it. You need to have capability, flexibility, and the most innovative designs. So we gave it just that. We gave every Actionable Xactimate Profile an optimized inspection engine as standard. And the Actionable Xactimate Profile includes exact scope for mitigation invoicing and exterior estimating, providing rule scripts to improve estimates for both green and seasoned teams. We rewrote the record books with Actionable's industry standard default profile settings, preloaded into every Actionable profile. You get changes to wall, window, door, and carpet calculations that focus on accurate and transparent estimating. We think your profile should work smarter and harder on your behalf, so we've loaded the most innovative macros into the profile, right from the factory. Actionable Xactimate Profile is ready for whatever loss you decide to take on, because it was built for that. The Actionable Xactimate Profile has the ability to take on any kind of estimate, the speed to handle more volume, and the tools to take care of any warranted overages or omissions. The Actionable Xactimate Profile, built to improve your estimates today.
Alrighty. Welcome to the Actionable Insights launch of the Actionable Xactimate Profile. You've got Harrison here, you've got Watley there, and we are live. I think we're live on Facebook, live on LinkedIn, live on Twitter, live. I don't think we have live on Reddit yet. We're working on that one.
What? TikTok?
No, we are not live on TikTok. Does TikTok do live? I don't think it does.
I'm willing to explore. I'll let you know in a month. You know I'm going to TikTok, right?
I know you are. I know you are.
I'm going in alone.
That's a collective you. So what are we here to celebrate, Wadley? We're, 18 months? You said 2.5 years in the comments, but I mean, 24 plus months of hard work has gone into releasing a major new engine into the Actionable Profile. Now, when we talk about engines, people are like, cars. They're not quite sure what we're talking about. There's been an inspection engine inside of Xactimate for years. In fact, many of you may know it as the thing that reminds you that when you hit complete, it tells you all the things you did wrong. One of my all-time favorite examples of inside this room, you have a ceiling fan and light and a light fixture. Are you sure that there's a separate light fixture from the ceiling fan and light combo? Please remove one of these line items if applicable. Well, what we've spent the last 2 years doing is...
How many rules were there for the last 25 years? How many rules?
Like maybe 30.
I think it's like 35.
Maybe 30 to 35 of rules that would try to catch things in your estimate. Well, for the last 2 years,
just to overages. That's it, right?
Just overages. So, I'll get into the overages omissions in a second. What we've done over the last 2 years, people have known Actionable Insights. Thank you, Cole, and our social media team at Solidify for putting out that video, the launch video.
It was really
kind of explained. It explained in 2017, Actionable released a 3,000-page book of Xactimate invoicing templates. Our goal was to help establish what would be reasonable and customary when invoicing in property insurance with Xactimate. If you are trying to replace a high-grade shower surround with mortar bed, here would be the line items that you're supposed to use. Here are the F9 notes that you would use to justify those line items within your scope. And then you would submit that estimate to the claim using the insight sheet templates. Well, while people have taken great advantage of those invoicing templates over the last 4 to 5 years, but people have always asked for more. How can I get more out of the resources that Actionable Insights puts together? Well, over the last 2 years, we were invited to transpose all of our estimating guidance that you see inside the Insight Sheet database into the engine of Xactimate, inside of the Actionable Xactimate profile. So what does this mean? When you are working inside of the Actionable profile, you'll be getting live estimating guidance from the Actionable Insights team. The engine is looking at your estimate while you write it. It doesn't matter if you're writing mitigation, repair, commercial, residential, large losses, small losses. Our engine is programmed to look at the scope as you write it and help guide you. And it's guiding you in 2 places. The first is overages. Overages is what we would call a mistake. You're using line items that are mutually exclusive, that aren't supposed to be used together. You have used line items that aren't related together. Overages like you have a high grade sink, but average grade faucet. Those are a mismatch. Typically, your grades would match high grade to high grade or average grade to average grade. So overages are important because overages are problems. Overages cause problems between contractors and carriers. Contractor writes a scope, sends it to a carrier. There's a bunch of mistakes. What happens? Delays the claim for weeks as there's a back and forth around back and forth negotiation around proper use of line
And
items.
it works both ways, right? Like if an IA writes a scope and omits a bunch of warranted line items, then that creates a problem for the staff adjuster later.
Yep. So overages taken care of with the actionable profile. And the other, I think, is the most groundbreaking is omissions. There are alerts, rules, guidance that are going to guide you to line items you probably should have included but have not included yet. So, for example, one of my favorite insight sheets is the water heater detach and reset with code upgrades involved. One of our invoicing templates is an insight sheet. And there are about 13 different line items you should be using when detaching and resetting a water heater when code upgrades are in play. Now, historically, what did you need to do to remember all those 13 line items? Option A, memorize everything and become an incredible master of the 24,000 structural line items in the price list. That's a lot to memorize, 24,000. 2, you could go to getinsights.org, check the insight sheet database for what line items you should be using. Or 3, the best way to actually get that guidance is just to have it inside of Xactimate already so that it shows up while you're writing. Now, while I haven't talked a lot, jump in here. What have your thoughts been over the last 2 years as we worked on this profile together to get this live estimating guidance out into the industry?
Yeah, one of the things that pains me is this should have existed a long time ago. There has been a huge demand for it, so much so that several other businesses have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in creating audit tools that set outside of Xactimate. So I don't know if I want to list them by name. I don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings, so on. But you guys especially those in the program environment, understand that almost every sheet is getting reviewed by one of these engines, but those engines sit outside of the program. And so the analogy might be if Microsoft Word, in order to figure out if you had misspelled something, you had to go and print to a PDF, upload that PDF to a various portal, wait 10 minutes, maybe that portal sends you back an email with another PDF that's not actually resolved. It just outlines, hey, this might be a warranted inclusion, this might be an overage, and then the user has to go back to the program in Word and like go and make those changes. Or think in terms of spelling. Like if you had to send that out to Word and then like Word sent something back to you and you went, oh, I guess I misspelled that, or whatever grammar it wanted to provide. That's a really clunky workflow. And you're limited. It doesn't matter how well that software works outside of Microsoft Word. It could never actually maybe expose like the nuances associated with grammar and so on. And so it's been hard to watch for 10 years, Harrison, all these other players like show up and just try to fill holes in the software that was coming out of the Lehigh business unit, because this really should have been done. This artificial intelligence should have been included in this program a long time ago. Well, fortunately, you made the case, right, with the right people to go, hey, we're the right partners. I think initially it really came to you, and then we realized there was something here, and so your team started beavering away, and essentially you built Grammarly inside of Xactimate. And so it doesn't matter what anybody else does outside of the program, it's never going to work as well as elegantly as something inside the program. And think about Microsoft Word, or think about Grammarly, how it's underlying the word that's misspelled or the sentence that could be improved, and then providing you guidance in real time there on the right. Like that's a quantum leap. And that's what the actionable profile is. When you think about the technicalities of how it works and how it's exposing estimate attributes relative to like what price list, where this particular estimate's being written, whether it has exposure to freeze, whether it has exposure to seismic activity, that logic's all, whether it's a commercial estimate, whether it's a residential estimate, that logic is there and the rules are firing accordingly. When you think about the sketch attributes, how it's recognizing the high wall or the short wall in the room and providing guidance to include maybe line items for confined space, or maybe at height if it's over 11 feet in that room for painting and drywall. Like that can't be done with field mapping and crystal reports and PDFs, like all that antiquated technology. This is the future. And you and I've always built towards things that are a decade ahead. So here we are. I'm really proud of this, and I think it represents some of probably the pinnacle of my career thus far. Like just to
Wow.
have like cause this to be done as opposed to doing it, and see your team develop and so on, and appreciate the resources that Vera has poured into building this. Like this is a thing I'm probably most proud of after decades of working my ass off.
Hey, man, that's what Actionable Insights was created to do. For those that don't know, maybe this is your first time checking in with us. We are a 501c6 nonprofit. We're a trade association. Our mission is to preserve the health of the restoration ecosystem, the property insurance ecosystem. And so when we are looking at technology like Xactimate, which most of the industry is using, and there's, we're both Xact certified trainers, Wally. Like there's a huge market for training in this industry because everybody wants to use the invoicing software correctly. They want to use it accurately. They want to use it ethically.
Yep.
And so there's always opportunities for improvement. And what better way than for Actionable to provide guidance to the industry, to provide improvements to the industry by essentially taking all of the estimating guidance and training we do on a daily basis and putting it inside of the Xactimate software so that anybody using the Actionable Profile will get better estimates every time they use it. So
yeah, I think there's an expectation of software being more intuitive, right? Like when I became a certified trainer 12 years ago, people just tripped over themselves to get in our class. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I was the worst trainer ever. But like from day one at 35 people, like, hey, how do we lose this thing? And like that was customary 15 years ago. If you want to learn how to software, you had to go get trained up to use the software. The That's just the way the world worked in like the 90s and the 2000s. But what is the expectation now? The expectation now is that software should just be intuitive. It should be built on familiar patterns where the user can just jump in and it guides towards sound outcomes. And that's what we've done here.
So I think it's time to actually take a look at the profile in action. We've talked about the ethereal a bunch. I mean,
Yep.
people are jumping in. Todd Van Sant Scott, LinkedIn user. That's my favorite person, LinkedIn user, jumping in here, giving us some feedback. But we're bringing in my Xactimate screen here to show off what we got. Now, this is X1. This is the normal X1 production environment. And when we talk about the actionable profile, people have often asked, well, what is it? Well, you probably know profiles because you've been using them for 30 plus years. Anytime you hit new project, you have to decide which profile you want to work in. Now, Xactimate's always come with two profiles, contractor profile and a carrier profile. Any previous students will know in the past we were more of a fan of the carrier profile just because of the utility that's been built in there. But the actionable profile is actually a combination of both the carrier and the contractor. People like the contractor profile for a couple of reasons. One of them being a particular report that a production report you can only get when in the contractor profile. People like the carrier profile because of the coverage loss tab and the ability to apply global deductions and alike. So what we have now is the actionable profile. And so if I click actionable profile, we'll call this the profile launch here. Thank you. We'll go ahead and create this. So this is like creating any other ESX that you've created in your career with Xactimate. Now let's go ahead and grab one of the newest price lists here from October. We'll go ahead and put done right there. I'm going to open this up so you can see. First off, everything looks pretty normal, but you'll notice on the right side, already showing up, is the new inspection drawer. So this is where the new engine, where all of our estimating guidance is contained. Many have been familiar with the old flow of where you had to go to complete and you had to hit the inspect tool, and that would pop up this window here of the old UI, the old user interface of the old inspection engine. Problem though, if there was good guidance in this engine, what did you have to do in order to act on it? You had to essentially close out, go back into estimate items, go back to where the line items are, and then do your work. And then what happens when you address one rule? You got to go back to complete, you got to go back to inspect, and then you got to go back and open up that window, and then you got to close it again, then you got to go back. It was a mess of actually trying to act on good estimating guidance. Now, what kind of estimating guidance are we talking about? You'll see here, these are the required fields. We've had these kinds of required fields for years. I haven't put in policy number, I haven't put in date received, date inspected, or like. Let's go ahead and start estimating. Let's just put in a line item here. I'm going to start with WTR EQ, one of the most common line items out there for setting up, taking down, breaking down equipment, and alike. Now, you'll note on the right side, you may have just seen 3 new alerts pop up. First off, there's a 0 quantity or unit price. Now, we've seen this before, but it's essentially saying, hey, you've got a 0 calc line item here. You haven't actually charged for anything. So first off, I'm not going to make a mistake by not charging for something that I put the line item in for a reason. I need to put a calculation. Let's go ahead and do 2 techs times 4 hours each.
And it's great that happens in real time, right? Like I was guilty of that as an estimator, but I'd find it at the end and then I'd have to be like, well, what was I talking about? What was the measurement for that drywall or that equipment setup takedown?
Yeah.
So while you're thinking about adding it, it's saying right there, hey, there's a problem. And that adds value to the workflow, I believe.
Exactly. Right here on the right side. In fact, I'm going to make this calc 0 again so you can see it one more time, where it pops up 0 quantity or unit price. And as soon as I add any calculation here, it's going to note, boom, inspection engine ran again. We're good to go. Now, what are the other alerts that have come up with already? You'll notice I've invoiced for time to set up equipment, monitor, and break it down. I have not actually invoiced for any equipment yet. So the new inspection drawer inside of the actionable profile is reacting to the scope that I'm writing while I write it. So now we can put in WTRDRY here. We'll put in a calc of 3. 3 times 3 units for 3 days, put okay. And then you'll notice on the right side, already that is gone. So the rule that was saying, hey, don't forget your equipment, I've now successfully not forgotten my equipment and I put it inside of my estimate. Other things that are popping up here, floor protection may be warranted, right? It's recognizing that this is a mitigation environment. We're using WTR line items. So it's saying it's likely that you may need floor protection as a part of this loss. Please do not forget to include floor protection. While you and I have been training towards floor protection for years, not only in the affected area, what's the most commonly forgotten area for floor protection?
I think in the hallways, like the construction traffic zone.
Yep, the construction traffic zone. So that's a great reminder to not forget of those areas that require floor protection when working in a mitigation environment.
I love that rule. I can remember as an estimator, like taking a shower or something that evening, and then I'm like, oh, you submitted that to the claim file without floor protection. Like, darn it. And I think these type of rules really constrain that. I'm looking at these rules below, and I want to give you guys some guidance into like kind of what you're paying for in this new nonprofit that delivers these type of utilities at cost. This whole notion of face mask with CDC, this was really useful for those of you who got in and have been using this program for the last 6 months in closed beta. I mean, yes, this is the launch, guys, but don't think that you're the first team to ever use it, okay? Like thousands of people have been using this every day and it's been getting better. But these 2 rules need to be disabled, Harrison, by your team because it's overcome by events. Like this was an outcome of the pandemic. And thankfully, this is not really top of mind. And I don't think it's influencing the behavior of restorers day to day. And it doesn't really have merit. And when you think about what you'd be paying for, just think about it in like the constant refinement and investment of these rule sets to make sure that they're current and really reconcile with what we're doing here in the field as tradespeople.
Well said. One we'll see in a second. But for example, when you use water bar, but you don't actually use any containment post or tension post, there's a rule that pops up that says, hey, you've included WT bar for the actual containment chamber. Don't forget about the tension posts that typically go along in applying that containment chamber. So
Yeah, and I think as you start to include a certain amount of square feet, the containment, but it'll remind you to use a zipper at a certain point, I believe.
it will. In fact, we'll hopefully see that in the next example. What I wanted to start out here, while many people still have not seen this, and to not see the actionable profile in action, it's easy to confuse it with other technology out there of not knowing what it is. Oh, is that this? Is that that? No, this is the actionable profile. It's reacting to your estimate while you write it in X1. So it's good to see an example of what it's like to write an estimate from scratch. And Watley, you clued in on it. To have these rules popping up and the engine firing while you write is allowing the user to make corrections right away, so that you don't make the same mistake 7 times throughout an estimate, because you catch it the first time and you're able to get through that scope faster and more accurately along the way. Let's flip to another example. There's been 2 primary ways that people have been using the actionable profile over the last 6 months. One is writing all their estimates from scratch in the profile like we just showed here. The second is taking estimates that they've already completed, duplicating them into the actionable profile so that they could see how is our estimating guidance impacting work they've already written or was written in a different profile. So let's take a look now. I'm going to switch over to a small mitigation loss here. This was sent over to us in a training engagement. Just to give you a quick example, we've got some DMO dumps, some fans, some scaffolding labor and alike, and we've got some line items for drywall removal, baseboard removal, insulation removal, and alike. And what you'll see here is there's 29 actionable alerts that are popping up here inside of the inspection drawer. 29 opportunities. That could be overages, mistakes that were made that need to be cleaned up, or it could be omissions, line items that were left out that should probably or potentially have been included before this scope was finalized. So let's go to the top here. And one thing that I want to note is you'll see we have a sketch here. We have a main level, kitchen, master closet, hall, bath, hallway. And these alerts are organized by the room, by the grouping that they're in. So you can see, for example, in miscellaneous, we have one alert here that's popping up. Roll-off dumpster may warrant water-resistant OSB plywood materials. Watley, how many driveways have you purchased in your career as a contractor when deploying a dumpster?
It weren't driveways, they were actually parking lots at commercial facilities. And so asphalt tends to be a lot softer than concrete. But yeah, we dropped some 40-yard roll-off dumpsters and then loaded them up with a bunch of compromised building material, and then realized that those containers, those roll-offs, like they had gone into the asphalt about 3 inches. And there's not a great way to fix that to pre-loss condition without actually dropping new asphalt, new tar. So that's what we had to do. And then we had to repaint too, which wasn't cheap. So
Nice.
that was a real bummer as a restorer. Those are the projects you just don't make money on, Harrison. And then
Yes.
you learn.
So what did we learn? We learned to put in guidance into the actionable profile that if you're putting a dumpster out there and it's going to be on a softer surface, or it could potentially damage asphalt, driveway, or alike, it's best to throw some OSB sheathing underneath. Now, note that this rule is saying when utilizing a roll-off dumpster, it may be warranted to augment the dumpster with water-resistant plywood via one of these line items, FRM, UL3, Force WW, with an activity of M. So it's basically saying, hey, here is a line item for OSB sheathing. If you are going to be deploying it in an area where you need to protect the ground underneath it, use this line item, add it, and then add an activity of M. Now, let's actually add that line item here, FRM UL3-4 WW.
Don't do M. See if it stays.
Okay, we'll do the plus first. So we'll just do a replacement here. It's in a non-sketch area, so we'll just put 100 square feet. Just put it in there. Now, note the engine's running. The engine did not. Not only did the engine fire live, but a second rule fired that says, hey, it may not warrant labor to deploy. So notice we use replace, not material only. We're not actually installing the sheathing in a property. We just need the material to be able to place it underneath. So not only did the rule around, hey, you should use material only still exist, because I haven't satisfied it, because I did it improperly, it's reacting live to, hey, you probably don't need that labor there. Just guessing. But
And this is the kind of stuff that drives adjusters nuts. It's like, okay, I'll pay you your $11 for your OSB, but like, don't charge me $97 to go drop some plywood underneath the roll off. And, you know, you can get the impression as a staff adjuster that contractors are doing that nefariously. But I think so often it's just an erroneous inclusion where they're adding the OSB because they're putting it on there and they otherwise forget or don't know to even update the ACT to materials. And this is what makes me so proud of what you've built here, Harrison, because it's going to create better claims outcomes. It's going to reduce friction and create space for people to fall in love with their jobs again.
So, following the guidance that's popping up in our own profile, let's now change this activity code to material only. And what just happened? Both alerts disappeared like that. Why? Because we have successfully satisfied the guidance. Not only have we done good work in estimating, we've also done good work in doing excellent work on the job site of including and protecting the driveways and alike of the areas that we're working in. So let's keep looking through here. Let's jump to the next room. We've got living
And
room.
100 is a lot for the record. For
100
square
what?
feet.
Yeah, sure. I just put in a number to satisfy our own guidance here.
So
Taking a look at the living room, right? We have 3 different alerts here in the main level living room. Water containment barrier may warrant a tension post. So that makes sense. What do we see inside of here? WT bar, we have containment areas, but we have no tension posts. So let's go ahead and add the tension posts. We'll put a calc of 4 posts here times 1 day. And what just happened, we were able to successfully address the alert. And now we've included our post as well. By the way, I'm seeing a question from Tyler I want to answer right now. Tyler Gasper has asked, will there be monthly updates of the actionable profile to account for price list changes? Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that when Watley and I record the new price list update summary video that comes out every month, we are actively looking at the new line items that were added and how they interact with all the existing line items and creating new alerts around making sure that you know what new line items that came out and know how they interact with the rules or the line items in the price list and the rules within our engine drawer. Okay.
A lot of work goes into that, Tyler. Great question. And just making sure these rules don't become stale. That's what you're paying for. Every time there's a new line item, the network is made aware of it by way of this rule engine. And then all the changes that are made, that's where a lot of heavy lifting is too. It's not just on calling out the new line items. It's also, well, what changes were made to the existing line items and then going back and then updating all those rules. So when you guys see 35 new line items hit in a month and you see 66 other changes, that's 100 hours of work from really specialized professionals to go back and updates in a thoughtful way.
Well said. You were asking about the zipper alert here. We have hey, you have more than 311 square feet of containment. Typically, you see at least one heavy-duty zipper per 311 square feet of containment. Please double check if you need to add a zipper. And then may warrant respirators as well because you're using a WTR line item with friable material. So
and shout out to Alliance Environmental and ATI Environmental for helping guide us as it relates to 311 square feet. So when the team would end up running up against things like how many bags would be warranted or what kind of square footage or weight does this compromised building material, be it drywall, insulation, like how many bags does it require per square foot? We reached out to some big players that are established and got some feedback from, on the ground. And a lot of thought was given to it. So thank you, ATI. Thanks, and Alliance Environmental for helping guide a lot of these rules, especially as it relates to HMR.
And then we have some estimate rules here below. The rules above were all organized by the group, by the room that they were in, they were affected or being triggered in. These are estimate rules. This is not looking at any individual room, but it's looking at your estimate as a whole. And it's recognizing things like, hey, floor protection may be warranted. You've not included any floor protection in this mitigation invoice. Temporary toilet may be warranted. This is a large loss over, you might want to double check to see if a temporary toilet is warranted to include in this particular loss. There is no project supervision or a superintendent hours inside of this estimate. This may be warranted to look at. Some people have left it out on purpose. Some people have forgotten to include it altogether. So it's just a helpful reminder as to, hey, don't forget that supervision may be involved here. If you are deploying WTR Cat 3 line items, as we see here in the living room, it may be warranted to also include the decontamination of that equipment, so that you could see that here. Let's see here. Scaffolding or ladder jacks may warrant fall protection or fall protection per week. That's often a commonly overlooked line item when using scaffolding in high areas as well. So you have lots of opportunities here, both in the alerts that are inside the rooms, reacting to whatever line items you put inside the rooms, and to your scope as a whole to ensure that you get to the best outcome in the most accurate scope the first time around. We're trying to ensure that people learn Xactimate well, the line items and how they interact with each other. We're also trying to reduce cycle times here. While nothing's worse than 2.5, 3 weeks of back and forth between a contractor and a carrier trying to get to the right scope. Well, ideally, if we're reducing mistakes and we're including all the warranted line items, we have a better outcome or a better chance of getting that claim settled the first time that it's submitted instead of the third time or the fourth time or the fifth time or the sixth time. Ultimately, this helps people get back to work. It helps homeowners get their homes put back together, gets businesses back up and running, and everybody keeps going. This industry becomes more efficient along the way when people are writing the best estimate they can the first time they're trying to.
Yeah, I mean, what was the overarching guiding principle, Harrison? Like for the full cycle claims that are measured, like this is a program shell. So first notice of loss goes to Nationwide. Nationwide sends it through Xact analysis, and then that's assigned through a TPA to a network contractor. Those estimates are getting adjusted. If you take mitigation and repair as a whole, on average 3.7 times where the estimate was adjusted greater than 10%. So not a small adjustment to like a claim number or something of that nature, an estimate that was actually materially changed by dollar. That's 3.7 times. So it was our fundamental belief, and it was refreshing that Vera shared this belief that there's too much waste in the system. Like all that back and forth is bad. What we really want to get back to is carriers collecting premiums and paying claims, and then contractors accepting claims and swinging hammers. All this back and forth in the middle, it's not creating good outcomes for policyholders, and it's not really allowing the carriers to price risk accurately. It's a giant mess. And so if we could get to a point where estimates are being adjusted maybe 1.3 times, Harrison, on average, like there's going to be some back and forth, right? That's okay. That's the free market trying to play out in a non-free market environment. That's a lot better than 3.7 times on average. I mean, that means some estimates have got to be getting adjusted 12 times to get through a large loss, something of that nature. That's bad. That doesn't actually help the end user. What is the product we're selling as a carrier? You're selling how you respond to that claim. And we've gotten to a point where with 17,000 structural line items in good faith, just a lot of ambiguity has emerged, and Actionable has been working really hard to drive that ambiguity down and shed a light on like what would be reasonable and customary to both sides of the claim. And this is the most acute expression of it I can think of. Like, this is where it should be. This is where that logic, that's where Scott Black, Cynthia Paris's 20 years of experience, probably 35 collectively, from the carrier side, help guide us at the board level for like, what's a good outcome and how can we get to, maybe 1.3 adjustments per claim. So think about that when you look at this product. Like, what was the objective? We're just trying to constrain that back and forth, right? So often the contractor erroneously writes up a sheet and they include some overages and it's at 110 grand. And then the staff adjuster comes back at 91,000. And then by the time the contractor opens it back up, they do recognize that $10,000 was overage because they did the math wrong in some way. But then they also find $4,000 worth of new things, and then it just goes back. We're just trying to get you to 100 grand from the outset. Like, that would be incredible for everybody and add a lot of efficiency into the property insurance ecosystem. And I hope Actionable is part of driving us towards a more efficient claim settlement environment.
I believe we will be. In fact, I want to call out some of the comments I'm seeing out there. One from Robert Moray was asking, how do I actually get this? let me take you to our website, getinsights.org. This is the home base of all things actionable. And you'll see the main tab up here is the Actionable Profile. This is where you can find out more information about the profile, how to sign up. There's 3 videos. If you're on this live stream and you want somebody else to know about it, you can send them the link to the live stream. Or we've got 3 condensed videos, less than 3 to 5 minutes, but allow you to learn is what is the Actionable Profile? How does this thing work? And how do we sign up for it? In fact, signing up involves getting your team on board on the website, getting them all their own account at getinsights.org under one enterprise professional plan. But I'll talk about those details in a bit. I want to continue calling out some of the individuals I see here. There's a gentleman, a Facebook user, I can't see who it is. It says, Wiley, this is way too involved. No one needs this. What a waste. I would argue otherwise. I would say that this is not a waste at all. In fact, Todd's comment on the Todd Dillashaw on the exact opposite spectrum. I retire in a month, and it feels like retiring now is like retiring like an astronaut in 1968, meaning there's
Thanks, Todd.
This is, I hate to use the word futuristic, but it's like, wow, how nice would this have been to have in my career? Something that looks at my estimates while I write them, make sure I don't make mistakes, make sure I include all the warranted line items. Scott just asked, can this be integrated with a carrier profile? That's a good question. Currently, our estimating guidance is only available in the Actionable Profile. And as far as we know, that's how it's going to be for a while. So if you...
But that's on the roadmap. I can speak to that directly. I don't think I'll get scolded, but yeah, Scott, you will be able to run the actionable rule sets against a carrier profile or say an Allstate or NatGen profile simultaneously. So this rule drawer on the right, it'll have a tab along the top, and you can choose what rules you and what inspection engine results you want to deal with at any given time.
But
So
for now, for clarity,
but for now, like I
if
think
you
probably
want-
a year away from that actually being a reality, but that's on the roadmap because that was important for not just actionable, but for Verisk and to support their carrier partners. They wanted to be able to run the Verisk rules against also the national general rules at the same time. And so because of that demand, that's been built into the product roadmap, and actionable will be able to run. You'll probably be able to run like national general, actionable, and Verisk rules all at the same time, or at least pick what tab you want to deal with at any given time to deal with the inspection results.
For now, and for at least the next year, if you're looking for this drawer and this estimating guidance, you'll need to write your estimates in the Actionable Profile. All it requires is a subscription at getinsights.org to our pro plan to get access to the profile. We turn it on at a company level. That's important to note. We don't turn this on for individuals. So this is a company investment if you're looking to get your entire estimating team and level up their estimating game with all this guidance. Just go to getinsights.org, sign up your team on the pro plan, follow the prompts. I just saw a comment. How can one give feedback if there are questions or concerns on the rules? That's a
Can I
great
take
question.
this one? Can I take this one?
What do you want?
All right,
What do you got?
pop open the mattress recycling fee. So this rule needs to be improved. I don't think that Verisk had exposed our ability to geolocate at the time this was written. And so a good rule like bypass. So go ahead and click on bypass. And so say you're this Facebook user, we'll just call you Bill, not applicable in Idaho. Yeah. And actually train them to write at Harrison. So we know what to actually search for that. So if you guys put that tag like at Harrison, then at the end of each month, Harrison gets these reports, and then the team will go through and try to make improvements to these rules based on your feedback. And so with this, I mean, this is a good reminder for the team, Harrison. Now we know this will actually get dealt with. We'll constrain it or then
I believe
exclude
this is coming up because I'm using
Idaho.
the San Diego price list.
Oh, okay, cool.
I believe it
That's
actually
right.
is reacting properly. That's
Cool.
one of the guys, if you can't tell, Watley and I are so deep in this. This is what we've been looking at for 2 years. One of the things we just unlocked a few months ago is the ability to write rules to price lists in different states and different regions. That'll be one of the next iterations of actionable alerts that get introduced to this drawer. So because I'm using a California price list, it's recognizing that a mattress recycling fee may be warranted.
Yeah. Over time, the erroneous alerts guys will be ever constrained. And so right now you're coming into a world of thousands of rules. And sometimes you can maybe find that burdensome, and maybe 35% of these are not warranted. and not going to be applicable to your situation. And the goal is over time, with your feedback, we take an iterative approach and we can strain that down to maybe 7%, right? And that's maybe as far as you could take it. But we don't want to be throwing alerts that aren't applicable to what you're doing. So there's a ton of logic built in this rules engine, whether it's commercial, residential estimate, whether it's in a high-end area or a area that's maybe not high-end fixtures and so on, to guide the rules towards something that would be useful the majority of the time.
Cole, come over here for a second. Wave to the people. I also wanted to know during the closed beta, if you've had any questions or concerns about rules, guidance, like how the profile works, how the drawer works, Cole's been our main man handling all of this. So you can always reach out to us at support@getinsights.org. Thank you to all the beta users, closed beta users that have been screenshotting rules and sending us questions. Hey, how is this supposed to work? Or am I satisfying the rule correctly? We're used to that. So I just want to give Cole some FaceTime out here to say thank you to the closed beta and thank you to Cole for helping refine these rules over the last 6 months. As you can tell, we're not done. L on YouTube says they're excited about this. Is the cost of the profile included in the pro plan? Yes, it is. That is the pro plan. When you sign up for
And
the
the pro plan
and
actually went down.
and you
from
get your team on
210.
board. Yeah, if you get your team on board, then we can turn it on for you. We have to connect the plumbing with Verisk. Once all of your estimators and your Xactimate licenses are signed up on getinsights.org, we can connect the plumbing and turn on profile access for you and your team.
Can I take one of these questions?
Yeah, go for
one
it.
of the questions from a Facebook user doesn't have a name. It says, these rules are written into the standard carrier profile, right? Not contractor. Here's the way to look at the actionable profile. It's very unique. What we did is we blended the best of what we liked about the carrier and the contractor profile. And there you always had to pick one or the other. And so, yeah, it's great that we, advised folks to use the carrier profile, because actionable is always trained both sides of the claim. And so that's how our curriculum was built. But in so doing, you gave up some things for the contractor profile, like some reports for components reports and reports you might send to your subcontractors, so on. And so that was a downside there. What actionable profile did is it blended the very best of the carrier and contractor profile. And it also omitted some things that we thought were clunky in the program that you didn't otherwise want to do. So you ever find yourself like filling out fields that you just don't think matter? Actionable profile tried to speed up your workflow by kind of eliminating that. And one rule that's really cool and people tend to like too is if you use the actionable profile, it will remind you to review the labor minimums tab. And I think labor minimums, although the rule and the utility functions near perfectly, it's easier to use the rule or that utility incorrectly than it is to use it accurately, because it's so easy to forget to review your labor minimums tab. But that's not possible anymore. You can't move forward. You can't print. You can't complete unless you at least go to the labor minimums tool and review it. And that's something that we're proud of as well.
Yeah, well said. As the freelance estimator was asking, if you are an individual, you have one license under one instance, yes, we can turn it on for that one instance with that one individual. So yes, you can still get the profile as a freelance estimator. Now, while we've fielded a couple questions here, we've talked about what a profile is. We've talked about this actionable profile, writing estimates from scratch. We've talked about mitigation. Let's take a quick look at a repair estimate here that gives us an example of some of the repair guidance that goes into here. Again, you're going to see the drawer on the right side here. We have 143 actionable alerts firing in this estimate. This is about a $96,000 repair estimate we were looking at.
Can I say something about that? Because that's really overwhelming to me if I'm watching this.
Sure.
You shouldn't have a situation where 143 conflicts are firing at once. The reason this would happen is Harrison's maybe converted a large loss estimate from one of our clients and then threw it in there, and now it's trying to react retroactively. If you're using the guidance as it's intended, as this software was developed, that was developed with a workflow of enter a line item, there's guidance on the right, address that guidance, right, and then move forward. So although 143, in a way, it looks interesting, and that's what he's trying to highlight, look how many conflicts are, that could be overwhelming to a user. But this should not happen if you use the standard workflow, which is launch in the actionable profile and write clean from the outset.
Yeah.
That's where you guys are going to experience the best results with this profile, not converting a nationwide.
If you're writing your estimates from scratch, from the beginning, in the actionable profile, you're going to be able to address these alerts as they pop up. This is the kind of The secondary way people have been using the actionable profile that I mentioned that I wanted to show. You have an estimate. It's done. You did it previously. You've now duplicated it into the carrier profile, or sorry, the actionable profile. Maybe it came from the carrier profile. Maybe it came from contractor. And so this would be basically saying, hey, what does the engine think about the work that I did here? This is a $96,000 estimate. So just give an example of some of the guidance and the rules. Removal of a glued down application over a concrete substance may warrant concrete grinding. Wally, this is a big one for us, right? If you're removing a glue down floor, you'll likely need to perform some kind of concrete grinding to ensure to properly prepare the surface for adhesion and alike. Then ultimately, if you're doing concrete grinding, what else are you going to need? Likely you're going to need PPEs. OSHA's been on a huge silica dust campaign over the last 3 to 4 years of making sure people are properly protecting their employees. So this is where we can see PPEs come into play in a repair environment. Yes?
I don't think that rule fires, right, until you add the concrete grinding. And so that was some of the logic too, is like to constrain throwing too many conflicts or alerts at once. It goes, okay, add your concrete grinding, and then, okay, concrete grinding's there, and then PPEs may be warranted to constrain the silica dust. I believe that's the logic here for that particular line item. And that's a line item, concrete grinding, that's probably commonly omitted because it's pretty new. I think it's a 2019 addition to the price list. You guys know if like you rent your Wolf, like you're right on and you're scraping off glue down engineered wood flooring, it's not coming off clean. Like there's tons of little pieces of wood and lots of glue residue and so on. And that has to be dealt with. And so the pricing department thought it best to represent those costs in a line item for diamond grinding, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So you'll notice I just added FCW grind and the alert went away because we successfully satisfied it in this particular room. This one I know is an absolute favorite of yours, Wadley. Light fixtures and light bulbs. Light fixtures in Xactimate do not include light bulbs. If you need to replace those bulbs, you need to invoice for those bulbs with a separate line item. Some of the most thoughtful rules we have here are checking what kind of light fixtures you're using. Is it a 1 bulb fixture? Is it a 2 bulb fixture? Is it a 3 bulb fixture? And then ensuring that inside of your estimate, you have the required number of bulbs for that light fixture. So you can see here, this rule's firing because it's saying, hey, there's a fixture that's supposed to have a bulb, but you've not invoiced for a bulb. So please make sure you invoice for a bulb prior to finalizing the scope.
Yeah, we're really proud of that logic, guys. It would have been easy to write rules that are like, hey, light fixture may warrant bulb. No, this is way farther. This is LED bulbs in California are the set standard. You can't even buy incandescent bulbs anymore, or barely even purchase fluorescent bulbs anymore in California. And so it's just guiding towards LED bulbs, 1, and then 2, it's counting how many light bulbs would be necessary for that fixture. And it wasn't built with some contractor bias where it's saying, hey, you just omitted this. If you include more bulbs than there are fixtures in the room, it is going to throw an overage the same way. And because of that burden to try to give equal credence to both omissions and overages is why this took 2.5 years and a lot of human capital and hard capital to bring to market. We wanted to do something for the industry as a whole, not just serve and preserve the interest of one side of the claim.
Very well said. I want to jump to a comment here from Scott Black. Does every bypass require a comment? At this time, yes. In about 3 to 4 weeks, Scott, there's going to be a new utility added to the drawer that will allow users to bulk bypass and bypass a bunch of things at once. Whether you want to bypass essentially all existing alerts, you've looked at all of them, and rather than individually clicking bypass on each alert like I will do here, you'll be able to select all and bypass. At the same time, you'll be able to user select certain alerts that you're done with and you want to bypass. And the other utility that will be added in about 3 to 4 weeks is predetermined bypass reasons. So that I, as an actionable profile admin, will be able to generate, let's say, 7 predetermined statements that says, not applicable to this loss at Harrison, not applicable in my state or my region, Yep. So we'll have the ability, we're going to increase the utility around the bypass. Currently, all rules must be addressed in some fashion, whether they are fixed by adding line items or removing line items in your scope, Yep. or providing a bypass reason as to why they are being bypassed. Now, while they kind of pointed this out earlier, but having bypass reasons has become very important for us. I'm sure as many of you for years put into that little bypass box, NA, not applicable. screw off, don't care.
Right.
Right? We put anything in there.
Right.
We've actually trained people to ignore one of the most valuable fields that we are now using to collect feedback. So yes, currently every alert
Bypass.
will require to be addressed or bypassed in some reason,
But
in
I
some
think by
way.
the time anybody gets on this thing, that's overcome by events. So I think the
Yeah.
official date right now, and actually the product manager, Rob Harold at Verisk, is on this live call right now. Shout out to Rob for prioritizing the right stuff. So he understands, based on the feedback, the actionable user base, that we need to be able to batch bypass and be more thoughtful about when we even require a bypass. And so he is pushing hard on the dev team to help resolve that, Scott. So I think by the time that it matters, anybody on this call, there'll be the ability to bypass. And even beyond that, Scott, Rob's been thoughtful enough to allow the administrator to control how the rules perform, and that some rules that are just suggestions won't even require a bypass soon. And so an example of that might be, hey, this tile might be set diagonally. Diagonal tile may be warranted. Actionable has no way of knowing whether it's diagonal tile or not. So it's like a suggestion. And so those gentle suggestions are different than, say, maybe an overage. If there's two line items and we know that they're mutually exclusive, then it's easy for us to say, hey, that requires a bypass. And that data should go somewhere as to why you've bypassed what we are pretty certain would be an overage. Some of the suggestions, alternatively, like there's no way of knowing, but we still want to add value to the user base. And so that's a suggestion that wouldn't require a bypass. You got it.
Here's a good example of a suggestion. Millwork may warrant rounded corner concessions. Hey, your millwork may require the use of FNC R&D for the additional labor charge for rounded corners. We're not sure, but based on the scope that you're writing, it's possible that you need that line item in order to estimate accurately. So this is a suggestion that's saying, hey, you may want to include this. Please double check.
Yeah, and what it's doing in that particular case is it's looking for drywall, and then it's looking for the bullnose line item that would set as a precursor to that rule firing. So pretty intelligent stuff, guys. I've never seen anything like this in the marketplace.
Here's a good one that we've been training towards for years. Don't forget your masking. If we're going to be doing painting activities, we need painting masking. If we're going to do drywall activities, we need drywall activities or drywall masking. This user has included drywall texture in this particular room, but they've not included the masking around it to ensure that they're protecting the area properly and executing in according to the best practices.
Cool. Thanks, Scott Black. Thanks for dropping by. I understand you got to jump, but thanks for all your support and guidance.
Yeah, no, very much appreciated. Coming through here, you can see that, these rules are popping up in the room so that you can say, you know what, let's take a look at unit 3207 hallway. Let's jump to the hallway. Now I've got my line items here in my estimate items window. I've got the alerts here on my right side. So I can simply look at an alert and make sure that, may warrant corn bead. Now, if I need dry sea bead as a line item to invoice accurately, I can add that into my scope here. Let's add dry sea bead. And we'll see the inspection engine up here in the top right start to spin again. And this exposed rule or the expanded rule here will go away, saying, hey, you've satisfied me. Thank you. Right? So while we've been at this for 45 minutes or so, I think this is a good place to slow down for a moment and just talk about onboarding to the actionable profile. I think everybody gets what the profile is, right? You write your estimates in Xactimate, you choose the actionable profile, and you're going to get estimating guidance along the way. Robert here is chiming in. I can see. Thank you, Cole, for highlighting his comment. This is the product manager at Verisk. I'm trying to make the best user experience and allow the administrators many options to customize the tool to their preferences. Please keep the feedback coming. So what's been fun for you and I, Wadley, is that we've had the chance to build this for 2.5 years. But now we are doing great work with Verisk to take all the feedback we get here at Actionable, all the Actionable Profile users, to make sure that this thing continues to improve both in the content of the guidance, that's on me and my team, as well as the utility of the drawer to ensure that we can get you this guidance and make it easier for you to navigate from estimate items to rules to actually addressing all these things live in the estimate items tab while you write. Last thing I want to highlight here, I told you to go over briefly some details, right? Where do we find the actionable profile? How do we get access to it? Getinsights.org. Under the main website, you'll see the actionable profile tab. You can also see if we're ever streaming live. We got a nice little, hey, we're live right now. Coming down to the actionable profile, What are the steps here? You sign up for a pro plan. Okay. Want to take a look at the membership resources and the membership plans here. What is a pro plan? The pro plan over here is $162 per month per seat. With this plan, you get access to the profile. One of the things we heard during the beta that I want to just announce or talk about, many people, when you build something that's never existed before, a lot of people are hesitant to jump in. They're not quite sure what they're buying. They're not quite sure what they're getting into. So Cole and his team decided to implement a new 99% off discount for the first month. Meaning, if you're an estimator by yourself and you want to determine, is this worth $162 a month for me? Then you can jump in at about $1.62 for the first month to check it out and do all your estimates. If you've got a team of 10 estimators, that means all 10 estimators are getting 99% off for the first month, so that you can jump in here, onboard the actionable profile, get your team writing estimates in the actionable profile, and see what they say. I may be biased. I think they're going to enjoy the estimating guidance. I think they're going to enjoy making sure that their estimates are complete and accurate. If you decide not for me, then you can cancel at any time. But ultimately, we haven't really seen many come out of that kind of trial period, closed beta, discount period, and decide this isn't for them. So this is why I want to make sure everybody has the chance to get in here, check out the profile, get the live estimating guidance, and see what's the impact it has on your team. I would recommend at least 3 months of use, because you want to be able to see the actual impact on revision times, on overall life cycle of your claims. So like, are we settling claims faster? Are we settling claims fairly with the profile? But at least you have a chance to get in here at 99% off and check it out for your first month, no matter who you are, what your team is, what size of company you have. Now,
You guys must be confident you have a good product to give it away.
pretty much,
Online.
yeah. We're very confident in what we've built. It's why we did a closed beta for 6 months, to make sure we had the time to get feedback, to get user feedback, to refine this thing. And I'm excited to get it into more people's hands, so we get more feedback and the more opportunity to refine it and make it better every day. It's what I've been doing for 18 months every day on this project, and I will continue to do it for the next 2 to 5 years at least, in working on the next iterations of the profile and what this engine can do. Now, add your team. Step 2, add your team to your pro plan. As stated previously, in order to enable profile access, we turned it on for an instance. We turned it on for an entire company at once. So when you are signing up people on your pro plan, in fact, I think I can probably sign in here to give an example of what the pro plan is doing with enterprise-like features. We go to my account. We can manage our users here. So you can see I'm adding users to my pro plan account, meaning I have one account, one pro plan account at getinsights.org, and every person on my team is added as a sub-user to my account. So I have my entire team here, 4 people, each having their plan underneath my pro plan. And all 4 of these individuals would enter their Xactimate IDs and have the ability to enable the profile access once their Xactimate IDs are in. Step 3, request company-wide activation. This is an important one. This is something that came up during the beta that we needed to add to our flows here. So once you've added all of your Xactimate licenses, all the estimators on your team under your pro plan, you're going to hit this green request company-wide activation button. This tells us, hey, I've signed up everybody.
Mhm.
If you haven't signed up everybody, guess what happens? We contact Verisk. Hey, are all their licenses signed up? No? Okay, then we contact you. What are we doing? Revision times. We're going back and forth. So ideally, you follow the instructions, add your entire team. When you hit the green button, request company-wide activation, it'll say, thank you for giving us a heads up that you're ready. Cole's team jumps into action and we'll get you profile access right away. Then we tell Verisk, turn it on. The next steps will all be automated. Emails will go out to everybody on your team of, you have the profile. It's time to sync your Xactimate and get going. And then you can start estimating in the actionable profile.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't everybody on the team in continental United States get a swag package from Actionable too?
they do as well. If you go to the membership resources, we're shipping out
What are you shipping
socks,
now?
belts, and hats to every user that signs up on the profile. But I will say, based on the new first month 99% discount, you'll get the swag in your second month. We unfortunately can't ship all the swag for $1.62 per month. But if you decide the trial works for you and you like what the profile is doing for your team and your estimates, then we'll be shipping out some swag as soon as your second month subscription hits. So All right,
Okay.
that was a lot. Jacob just asked, new to Xactimate, and this seems to be kind of an Xactimate proofreader. Yeah, Grammarly. I think I
Yeah.
like how Watley put it earlier. It's Grammarly for your Xactimate estimates. Grammarly works inside of Microsoft Tools. It works inside of Gmail. The actionable profile is a profile in Xactimate. It's inside of Xactimate. It's going to provide you that guidance as you write while you're writing. All right, Wally, dude, thank you so much for your guidance, your vision, and helping us on this project, getting this over the finish line over the last 2.5 years. I am very proud of what we have launched today in the Actionable Profile. I'm excited for more people to have the chance to get in here and start using it, to start talking about the impact. And I just can't wait for the next steps of what comes next.
Yeah, this is big, buddy. This puts Actionable on a very sustainable trajectory and secures your team's ability to really affect change for decades to come. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to work with those that have been in the closed beta, and I like continue to working with this industry to ensure that everybody's on the same page. What have we always wanted to do, Wally? Help people fall in love with their jobs again in this industry. There's a lot of friction every day. So if we can do things like providing estimating guidance that helps make your estimates better, helps get your claims settled faster and more fairly, then Actionable is doing what it was designed to do in this industry. I can't think of a better way right now than the Actionable Profile. So
awesome. All right. Thanks for all your attendance. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for the love, Bobby Payne. And I don't know, we're going back to the lab, buddy. Let's keep knocking it out.
All right. Thank you. And good luck settling all those claims out there.
Keep building.